Hello and welcome to Snapshot. I'm your host, Alan Wolfe, and on this edition of Snapshot, we're going to invite you to come along with us as we ride with the members of the Coral Gables Fire Rescue Department. As you can see, we're here in the nerve center of the fire department. This is the communications division, and we're here with
Sheila Stolzenberg.
Sheila. What's your job here?
Well, to answer emergency calls is the top priority, and the second would be to answer any calls that come in and direct them to where they're supposed to be going to. Top priority is sending rescue or fire, and to help people on the phone that need help.
So I guess at times it can be a pretty exciting and perhaps even a stressful job.
It certainly can be.
But I imagine it's never the same from one day to the next.
Never.
Well, we hope that you will stay with us. Our first order of business today is to take you on a tour of a fire truck. Did you ever wonder what all those gauges and hoses and metal parts were for? Well, you're going to find out. Al?
How you doing,
firefighter
sir?
with the City of Coral Gables Fire Department, and as promised, Al's going to take us on a tour of this apparatus called a what?
Well, this is engine 59, and this is our pumper. And
what's the primary function of a pumper?
for this pumper, this is engine 1. We call this engine 1. This is the first to respond. We're usually we try to get in the jump lines and first to get in and attack the fire.
So you want to put it out as quickly as you possibly can?
Yes, we do.
Now, on these fire engines, I know for years I have always wondered, and I'm sure you folks have always wondered also, what do they carry on these fire engines and why do they carry it? And we're going to check that out right now. Our first door.
Well, this is the engine right here, and as you can see, it's tremendous.
It is tremendous.
It's very
and moving on here to these large chrome pipes.
Well, these two are our discharges. This discharges water, and then this is the bottom one is the intake. And we intake water into our pumper, and the driver will exit it through the discharge.
So the driver has control of the flow of the water that way as well?
Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
There are lots of neat doors and all kinds of magic tricks here. What's behind this one?
Well, here we've got tools. This goes on to it's a foam jet.
Okay, now what would this do besides just blowing out foam? Does this?
Well, this blows out foam, and with this brings in air, so it covers the liquid or whatever they need to be covered up.
What would you use this for typically? What type of call?
Spills. It depends if a call, maybe a.
Like, could there be a situation where there's an accident and gas leaks on the street?
Yes, you could use it for that, or any kind of tanker, any kind of spill.
And what does the foam do actually once it's down?
It smothers it. It takes out the oxygen.
There's some fire extinguishers that do that too. I can't
yes, we have
the
them
name
on
of
here.
Them,
well, we have a multi-purpose on this side, and we have a CO2 extinguisher on the other side, and we also have a water extinguisher, but we can't use water on that.
So you've got tools here. You've got a.
Yeah, we have some forcible entry tools. Yes, this is a forcible entry tool. We have rubber mallets, hydrant wrenches, salvage covers, 2 donut rolls here.
And what are the donut rolls?
These can be used for when you hook up to the intake and
those chrome-plated pipes we saw before.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So this is hose essentially.
Yes, this is hose. Then you got the hose roller, and this is for the 5-inch hose. This is for when the fire's over, we walk it through and
make
then
some
drain
pizza
it.
dough through here.
Yeah,
too,
right.
If you get hungry. Firemen always get hungry, folks. Okay, moving on.
Here we have our appliances. We have, this is the fog nozzle. We got the straight tip nozzles. Of course, they have different nozzle tips. There's 3 different ones on this one.
Are they all interchangeable among these type of appliance?
On these 2, yes, they are.
Okay.
And it depends what you want. This is for a solid stream, And this could give you a straight stream or a nice wide stream.
And so when you get to the scene of a fire, you have to determine exactly which appliance you need to use based on what you're fighting, I guess.
Yes, and that'll be the officer in charge will do that.
Lots of...
These are for, you could put 2 hoses in here and make it into one and get more water through it. And this one is you put 1 2.5-inch hose in here, and then you can use 2 jump lines, 1 3/4 inch, and you can go 2 different directions. So it's nice. It's a nice appliance to have.
And you have to, I guess you have to be ready to use these at a split-second decision. You can't sit here and say, you know, what's that for?
No, you have to know what's going on, and the officer in charge will tell you what to do, and you should do what you have to do.
Okay. Well, we always wonder what's behind the next door.
Well, here we have a smoke ejector.
Okay, I would call this a fan, all right? Did you guys use this like to keep cool on a hot day, or what do you do with this?
No, well, what this is basically it's for salvage and overhaul. You can use it for if there's a room or any kind of rooms that get smoky in there. We try to get them out, try to get all the smoke out of there. So we put it in a place inside, maybe outside of a door, and then we suck the air, we suck the smoke through the machine and blow it out of the house.
Okay.
Or whatever we have to do.
If a person happens to be in one of these rooms that is filled with smoke before you get there, what's the way to deal with that if you wake up out of a dead sleep and there you are in a smoky room? How do you get out?
Well, first thing you should do is probably stay low as you can, because as you know, the smoke will rise and then it'll end up falling down. So what you want to do is find a place to get out, either the window or door. You should have 2 exits from every room that you have. So whatever way that you feel that you can get out, that's the way you should.
Do you think a family maybe ought to have a fire drill?
Yeah, I think every family should have a fire drill, definitely.
So they'll know the routes to get out. I guess that smoke can also cause you to have a problem understanding where you are if you rise up into the smoke with the toxins that are contained in it?
Yes, sir, and that's exactly what happens. People end up getting asphyxiated by the smoke, and then they pass out, and then that's the end of them right there.
Does smoke cause disorientation as well?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does, because you're taking out of the oxygen out of the air.
So basically, lay on the ground and get out of there.
Yeah, crawl on the ground if you can and get out of there as fast as possible, and hopefully just stay low, and then when you get outside, then get some help.
This is exciting. Let's move on to the back of the truck, see what we have there. Well, around the back of the truck, Al, is this where you ride?
No, it's not. We have jump seats up front, but many years ago they did.
This is giant.
Yeah, this is 5-inch hose. This is what we use.
If you can see that, Glenn.
Flows lots of water, and that's what the main thing is, to get the water on the fire, and this will definitely do it. 5 inches.
Just the weight of this tells me that all of you who do this for your living have to be in really good physical shape just to carry some of this equipment around. I imagine when it's filled with water.
Yeah, 1/100 section, it's approximately about 900 pounds, so you're really not going to be moving that much at all. So when this is laid out, this is 1,000 feet of 5-inch right here that we carry on this apparatus.
So when you get to a particular fire scene, you have to determine at that time which hose would be most appropriate to fight that particular fire.
Exactly, but we use the 5-inch hose, and then we use adapters and go off of this, so we have, at least we know we have the water there.
And so you don't have to carry this section around with you necessarily?
No, not at all. This is, once this is down, this doesn't move, believe me.
I have seen this on fire trucks, and I don't know what it is.
Well, let me get it out for you.
Okay, it's a giant, heavy-looking device. What's it called, Al?
It's a hearse tool. This is for extrication.
Wow.
For vehicles. And what it does is, as you can see, it's 2 different things. You can put it inside the middle of a door, and you just turn this little button right here.
Be a heck of a persuader, wouldn't it?
And you just open the doors open, or you can cut the beams for the roof, and it opens it up. And this will open up and close on top of it.
And how does it receive its power?
It receives its power. Well, here's the cord right here that goes with this 100 feet, and this runs off of this hearse pump.
Okay, we're going to take a look on the other side of the truck now and see where this giant hearse device gets its power. Let's go around here. What do we have here?
Well, this is the
makes
hearse
it work.
pump. This is the hearse pump. This runs the Hearst tools, which I just showed you before, and it's a nice piece of equipment here.
And is this dedicated just to that Hearst tool?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. You can run a lot of things off those lines there, but it's for the Hearst, for the extricating.
I guess you have to make sure that when you have equipment on a fire truck that deals with public safety and life, that you have the best there is and that everything is always ready to go. Now, what do you do about maintenance of this equipment? Are there checks normally on all of your equipment to make sure everything's working and indeed on the truck?
Well, yes, there is. Every day we check the equipment, and every Tuesday is called truck check day. And we start up all the equipment, make sure all the fluids are there. We start it up, run it for a little while, just to make sure everything's intact.
Well, let's move on. Very interesting. We have another magic door here.
Alrighty. This one right here, it's got a couple different things. We have a resuscitator here, which has oxygen, and it's 100% oxygen with the bottles. And we can put masks on the patient, or we can use a nasal cannula or a face mask or whatever one that is necessary that they need at that time. This is for
Tell me a little bit about the training that you received to use this equipment. I noticed that some people have EMT insignias and others have the insignia of paramedic on their uniform. What is that all about?
Well, the EMT's program, it's about 6 months long. You become emergency medical technician, that's what it stands for. And then you go into another program, it's the paramedic program. It's a little over a year program, and that's more advanced life support.
And are both of these programs during which you receive your state certification or license to practice?
Sometimes you go on your time off to get these. Some people get them before they get hired. Some people get them after they get hired.
But you do have to be state certified before you're called an EMT or a paramedic.
Oh, yes, you have to be state certified by HRS.
Very interesting. I guess you have to make sure that when you put things back, you know just where they are and exactly what is in the kit.
Exactly. In this one we have, which is kind of interesting, we have elevator keys. And
is that anything like Florida keys?
no, nothing like that. But they have different types of keys. Here, let me just get.
Hey, we could pull a tooth with this one, folks. What do you think?
That's a nice spanner wrench. But here's different types of elevator keys. And what you do is you put it inside of the hole, and when you feel it, this will drop down, and you turn it, and then you open up the door. And there's obviously different types of elevator keys for different places.
So you mean this would work if somebody was in an elevator, the power stopped, and they couldn't get out? This would actually open the door?
Yes, we would try that first. Yes, we would. We'll try to get the power on first.
Had no idea you carried all of this equipment. But again, you have to be ready to get the public out of the binds and scrapes that so often we find ourselves involved in. Also, I noticed that the tires on the truck are in excellent shape. Is this another thing you check on your Tuesday truck checks?
Yes, and every day we always check, make sure there's no nails or anything like that in them. But every Tuesday we go through a thorough inspection of the truck and all the things on it.
So who has to polish the truck? Is it always the rookie?
No, we all do it. I better say that.
How long have you been working at this job?
Well, as a matter of fact, this is my 4th day on as full-time. We went through the fire academy training for the Coral Gables for the last 3 months, and I think it was the 6th or so we started.
Well, folks, as you can see, we're really putting him on the spot. The 4th day on the shift?
A rookie that's a little nervous.
Only Alan Wolfe would do that to somebody, right? Okay.
Okay, here we have, this is for air rescue. This is the helicopter kit. And what we do is
Flares.
we have flares, and we have lights, and we have flares, lights, goggles, because you need 100 by 100 space for the helicopter to land. And there's designated areas throughout Coral Gables for the helicopter to land, and that's what it's for. And you have to wave them in. And the air rescue guys are excellent pilots, and they do it fine.
How do you make the determination as to whether you're going to call in air rescue as opposed to transporting the patient by ambulance or by your rescue vehicle?
Well, they have a trauma scale, and they figure out what the trauma numbers are, the Glasgow scale is, and then they go from there. And if it's 2 less, then they transport them by helicopter to Jackson.
Is transport time, an element in that decision?
Yes, it is, definitely. It depends. If you're close to getting there and you know it's a Sunday morning, you can drive there quicker than having the helicopter there ready for you, then they probably take them by the ambulance.
Very interesting. Looking up at this giant pipe, what is that for?
That's hard suction. That's a hard suction hose.
And what would you use that for?
We use that for just pulling in water. You can pull it in through lakes or ponds, or use it through a pool, or whatever you had to use.
How would you like to have one of those in your swimming pool, folks, every time you wanted to back flush it? Just call the fire department out and have them come help with the pool. More hose.
More hose, and this is 2.5-inch hose, and these are jump lines, and these are 1 3/4 inch, and they're different. These are triple layer hose on this side, and in here we have an accordion shoulder load. And this is for a one-man person that could just take it off. And this is usually for 2 men, but you can take it one person. But we have 2 different loads for that.
And you have to know the function of everything on this truck if you're going to do this job. I'm amazed. More intake pipes?
Yeah, this is the intake, and this is the discharge. Same thing on either side as intake, discharge. And these are our spanner wrenches. I haven't gone over these, but these just tighten up the couplings.
Let's take a look at this.
They tighten up the couplings. You can use them as a forcible entry if you had to.
So if you had to respond to a home and you couldn't enter the home because the door was locked,
Well, I'd probably take an axe or something like that, but you should keep these in your pocket because they're easily to get in and out, and you can use these many different, it's very versatile too.
Another door. I wonder what's behind this one.
Well, here's the other part, it's the other side of the engine. And as you see...
Do you polish this too, or only rookies have to polish this?
We do it all. We do it all too.
Okay, we're going to have another firefighter join us in just a moment for some very interesting information about what is up there.
He protects all living things in the forest. But he can't do it alone. Please don't play with matches. Put out your campfires. And never, ever forget the words of Smokey Bear.
Only you can prevent forest fires.
This is just one of the many parts you can play as a young Red Cross volunteer. Volunteer and play your part.
I'm here with driver engineer Walt Reed, the Coral Gables Fire Department. I got to tell you, I love fire trucks. I guess, boys, especially as kids, always want to be firefighters. So how long have you been doing this job?
I've been on the job about 5 years now.
I bet it's a labor of love, too.
Oh, yeah, I really enjoy the job. It's probably the best career decision I ever made.
You get to drive. That's what I want to do. I want to be the driver. Is it as much fun as it looks?
A lot of responsibility, but it is a lot of fun. It's always challenging to assume new responsibilities, and this is a new one for me, so I really enjoy it.
Lots of gauges and devices on here. Let's go take a look at them, and perhaps you can explain what everything does.
I'll try.
Okay. We're going to get to climb aboard, folks. Always wanted to climb aboard a fire engine. Of course, what self-respecting guy doesn't want to climb aboard a fire engine? I feel like I want to just pull all those handles. Starting at the top here, it says the vacuum gauge.
Okay, what the vacuum gauge does is it measures how much lift if we're going to draft out of a lake, which is to pull the water out of the lake, or how much pressure is coming into the pump from a hydrant, so we'll know exactly how much pressure we have coming into the engine.
Is there a norm for that?
Hydrant pressure can vary, so normally you may expect a hydrant pressure between 50 and 100 or something like that.
Okay, we have a tachometer.
Right.
And over here, another pressure gauge. Would that be the same as?
It's pretty much the same type of gauge, yeah. Measures. This one's measuring the vacuum. This is measuring the pressure more.
Okay, and as we go down here, we see some smaller gauges here with various markings that they've done in tape.
Okay, each one of these corresponds to one of our hose loads, which is up on the top here. The front one, which is 1 3/4, is in the front here, and this gauge will correspond to the pressure that we'll pump the water out to. The middle layer is for this gauge here, and the rear layer, which is a 2.5-inch hose, which is for a larger fire, mainly to protect structures and things like that, would be for this gauge right here.
And of course, we have lots more gauges here too. These are unmarked.
Right, these gauges are the 2.5-inch discharges that you saw on the side that don't have the hoses attached to them yet. But if we needed to advance a larger line into a fire, we would hook up to that and we would open this gauge up and we'd be able to pump water out there.
And whose job is it to monitor these gauges during a fire?
That's the driver engineer. He's responsible for all truck operations once we arrive at the scene.
So normally you wouldn't go in to fight the fire, but you'd be monitoring all this to make sure that their equipment is going to work and is working properly.
Correct. Our job is to make sure they have enough water to do their job, and at the same time make sure that the engine is performing adequately and not overheating.
Okay, up here we have a giant water thrower. It looks like what I would term a water cannon type thing. What is that?
Okay, that's 1,000 gallon per hour. Actually, it is similar to a water cannon. And what it does is it's for high-rise fires. We can put up to 1,000 gallons a minute on a fire with that after we've hooked up to a hydrant.
Would this also be the type of device that the police might request for crowd control and that type of thing, or not?
No, the fire department tries not to get involved in civil disturbances. We try to stay neutral as much as possible.
Sometime, I guess, when public safety is involved, everybody has to band together to protect the public, whatever the requirement is.
Right.
Steering wheel?
No, what this is once we do start, we increase our throttle here, which will correspond with our engine RPM. We set a pressure on one of the lines that we're pumping out to. What this does is we back this off, and it ensures that that pressure doesn't go above what we've set. So if we had two lines out that were flowing water and someone shuts down their line, all that pressure doesn't go to the one line that's flowing, and it diverts it back into the tank.
A lot of gauges here, lots of equipment, lots of responsibility. What kind of training is required when you move from firefighter to driver engineer?
We have approximately a 6-month to a 1-year training program that teaches us how to operate the equipment, drive the engine, learn our hydraulics, which is to calculate the amount of water we want to flow, because it's not really guessing how much water you want to do. We want to try to get it down to as close a precise a science as possible. So we do have different training aspects, maneuvering the truck and things of that nature. So it takes about 6 months to a year to achieve the driver engineer title, and then you're placed on a list, and when an opening comes up, they promote you to that position.
What is the most difficult and perhaps demanding part of this job?
It's a lot of responsibility, like I said before. The main job of the driver engineer is to make sure that the personnel get to the fire scene safely without having any accidents, because you are running against traffic.
Safely being a very key word in all of these operations.
Safety is always first. Personnel safety is always first. And once arriving at the scene, making sure that the personnel have an adequate amount of water to work with to do their job.
Well, Walt Reed, driver engineer, thank you for this wonderful tour of the fire truck, and thank you for letting me get on this fire truck. I love it. Oh, hi folks. You caught me playing with the equipment. I'm glad that you had an opportunity to stay with us today on Snapshot for our tour of this great fire engine. I love it. Hope you'll join us for the next edition of Snapshot. I'm your host, Alan Wolfe, and we'll see you next time. Let me get back to this. I love it.